Hi everybody, welcome back. Today I'm here with Janey, my friend, who did Peace Corps in
the Gambia.
And we're going to talk about the differences between experiencing Peace Corps in Madagascar versus
the Gambia. Is that how this is going to...
So let's get right into it. So I'm going to ask questions and then I'll answer or she'll answer and then we'll switch. What was your job assignment in the Peace Corps?
I was in the education sector and I was a primary teacher trainer, which means I did anything to support the school, like observations of the teachers and talking about behavior management, use of resources, like student-centered teaching kind of things. And then I also did stuff with the literacy. That was the main thing the Gambian government wanted, was literacy, and that had to do with libraries. So I helped create not create, but make the library better at my school.
My assignment in the Peace Corps, I was also education sector, but I wasn't teaching teachers as much. There was a little bit of that going on, but mainly my job was to teach high school level English class. So I was working with around sophomore level students at a high school. I had my own class that I taught by myself a couple times a week, and that just shows how different the experiences are between countries.
Yeah, even within each sector in Peace Corps, it's different because each country can ask for different things that they want from that sector, and there was similarities in that she was teaching English and I was supporting because they also learned English in my country, so the country I served in. So it was the same in that way, but they went about it in completely different ways. I just supported teachers, and they kind of told us that they would rather have us support teachers than do the whole teaching thing, and she was doing the teaching thing. So it all depends on what the country really wants to focus on in that sector specifically.
What was your housing situation like? In Madagascar, I had my own house. I lived in a school compound, so on the school property, but I had my own building, my own little fenced-in yard that I lived in, and every volunteer in Madagascar was supposed to have their own house. There were a few instances where they lived in like an apartment-type building, so they didn't have their own complete building, but in general, we live on our own in Madagascar.
The exact opposite. In the Gambia, they very much focus on relationships with families, which is not to say that your housing situation didn't focus on relationships, but we have partnerships with different families and close relationships with different families all around the country, and it's a very, very small country. So there wasn't a single volunteer that was in their first 2 years that didn't live with a host family. So I lived with a family that had I had 2 host mothers, a host father, and seven brothers and sisters. And I had my own separate little house in the compound, so kind of the same as yours. I had my own building with my own little backyard. But I relied on my family for things like food, and they helped me with my laundry. They helped me with pretty much everything. They were so lovely. I really enjoyed living with them. But most volunteers do live with a family and are attached with a family, unless they are a third year volunteer, and then they can choose to live closer to the capital and live in housing that isn't necessarily tied to a family.
We were assigned a host family at our sites, so my host family lived a couple blocks away from me, and I could go to them for anything, but I didn't eat meals with them necessarily.
I really love the family aspect of it. But there was times where people really wanted the independence, and families really just want to help you and make sure you know what to do, because you don't know the language very well when you get there, you don't know the culture as well when you get there, so they want to make sure you get through it step by step, and there's volunteers that want that independence and they don't feel like they have it all of the time. But I personally just love to hang out I spent so much time with my family, just sitting under mango trees, and I taught one of my host mothers how to knit, and I read to the kids and did all kinds of stuff, so I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, the housing situations I think must be just so different depending on where you're living in the world and doing the Peace Corps.
Yeah, I have heard that there are volunteers that live in like apartments by themselves, like in major cities with like all kinds of different like Wi-Fi's above pizza parlors, like all that kind of stuff. That's not what it's like in the Gambia.
If you're interested in doing the Peace Corps, you can talk to volunteers that are in the country that you're invited to or thinking of going to, and kind of feel out what the living situations are like there, because there are obviously people who want to have Wi-Fi. They want to be able to be in a city, living on their own, have their Wi-Fi, and then there are the volunteers who want to live with a host family in the Gambia, in rural areas. So yeah, you can feel it out. There's a lot of different places. I mean, the whole world is just so different.
Yeah, people thrive in different situations.
Yep. So what foods did you eat most often in the Gambia?
Peanuts, we call them groundnuts in the Gambia, are one of the major crops. Also rice and millet, which they called koos there. Those were a lot of the main things. So whether it was like something made kind of sweet or something made savory, peanuts were, and like peanut butter were a big base for those. But other than that, they had like you would have like vegetables and things. Fish was every day. If the fish man didn't come into the village, people were very upset. And then every once in a while they would have meat and that sort of thing, but it was mostly like rice and millet and groundnuts, which was great because I absolutely love peanut butter. And they made things like breakfast cereal, which is something I really enjoy too, kind of like oatmeal. So I was good. And of course, fresh like fruits when it's season, like mangoes and papayas and baobab fruit. Yeah.
Madagascar has a lot of different foods in the different areas and regions, but specifically where I was living, rice wasn't grown there, but people still ate a lot of rice. We also had a lot of cassava.
Yes.
Like fried cassava, like boiled mashed cassava leaves, bread made with cassava. A lot of rice. If we were eating rice, it was usually rice and beans or rice and some type of meat. A lot of rice. A lot of rice. And sometimes I could get fish at my site. The ocean was like 15, 20 miles away from my site, maybe. I don't know. Maybe closer than that. But people would have to bike the fish from the ocean to my town every day. So depending on the day, how the weather was, and how many fish were caught, sometimes you could get fish and other types of meat. Mostly just rice.
Yeah, that definitely saved me money. I know a lot of volunteers in the Gambia spent money on buying like nice meats and stuff when they would like go to the capital area, or even if they would go to town, they'd get like chicken sandwiches and whatever. But I don't eat meat, so that saved me a lot of money because the bean sandwiches were only like 15 dalasi, which was very cheap, and you could get like a big bean sandwich, and the bread was like fresh baked. I learned how to make the bread when I was in the Gambia, and it's good stuff.
So the fun thing about Janey is that she is a
vegetarian, vegan, eat fruits and vegetables.
Yes. So we're going to have another video coming up of what it's like to be in the Peace Corps and be
vegetarian, vegan. It's different in every country.
Yeah.
That is also a good question to ask, though, if you want to be in Peace Corps. Like, if they ask you in your interview about dietary restrictions, be completely honest, because some places it's easy to be vegetarian, and some places it's not. Like, we'll get into it in the other video, but it all depends on the country.
So, what animals lived around your site?
I didn't have a ton of animals that lived around my site because they're just deforestation was happening a lot around there, and so the animals weren't living there as much. They were kind of pushed out of those areas. But I did have a lot of like livestock lived because people own them, so like goats and sheep, cats and dogs, cows. I saw like monkeys or like baboons every once in a while. And I got a really cool video of a chameleon. And I'm sure that there was other animals, but mostly insects, which I really enjoy. So that wasn't a problem for me.
Where I was living, there were a lot of cows. A lot of people farming cows, sheep, goats. Some pigs, not that many. A lot of people where I lived didn't eat pork. A lot of chickens. We even had turkeys.
We had 0 pigs because the Gambia is a predominantly Muslim country. So if there were pigs, not many people were ever around them. Like, we didn't have them in my village.
In different parts of Madagascar, there are a lot of different animals. Like, you can find horses in some places, but specifically where I was living, there were no horses. There were lemurs, ring-tailed lemurs in the wild where I was living, which was fun. But
ring-tailed lemurs.
They cause a lot of havoc. They would, like, go into people's homes and, like, steal their fruit if they had fruit. And fruit was hard to come by in the desert, so it was kind of a nuisance.
Yeah.
So you'd spend your money on bananas and then they'd take them. But everybody still got excited to see them if they were hopping around. I don't know if we have any. We had, like, chameleons, lizards. I had a couple scorpions in my house before I got cats. Once I got cats, I didn't. And Madagascar hissing
cockroaches.
Hissing cockroaches.
Yeah.
They get big. They would get, like, big. And they would climb up everything. You'd, like, be at a tree trying to get the papaya. Like, this is the perfectly ripe papaya.
Fresh papaya.
And then a hissing cockroach would fall.
No.
And you'd be like, ooh. And it just...
Scorpions. I cannot do scorpions. And there was, like, scorpions, like, every night for, like, a week in my training village family. And so I refused to leave my house because there was, like, scorpions. And they thought it was the funniest thing ever. And they were like, look at this American, she's afraid of scorpions. Oh. And then, like, they would always think it's funny that I'm afraid of scorpions. And then I'd go up and, like, pick up a frog. And I don't know if it's this way in all of the Gambia, but my family did not like frogs. Like, we're afraid of frogs. And I'd go up and, like, pick it up and then, like, put it in their face just because I was like, you're making fun of me, so I'm gonna make fun of you. And they did not like the frogs at all, which was so interesting. I was like, think of, like, which one's more dangerous? Like, one can sting you, the other one's just kind of squishy.
And we had these centipedes. I think they're centipedes. I don't know how many legs they had, but they were, like, this big and black, and they had this hard shell, so they were kind of hard to kill, and they'd, like, wiggle around. And they're called trombu in Malagasy. I don't know if there's an English translation, but they were poisonous centipedes, so I guess that's the translation. And apparently when you get bit by one of these guys, it hurts so bad, like, and you should probably call the doctor. I don't think they can really kill you. If you were small enough, probably.
Crawling with all those, like, little legs moving at the same time.
Yeah, once I had cats, my bug problem and lizard problem and scorpion problems all kind of just went away because I had a lot of cats. So I guess that's my tip if you've got a lot of scorpions and hissing cockroaches in your house.
Rats. I should have gotten a cat because those things made a lot of noise at night.
Yeah. So do the cats, though.
But that's a little less than, like, running around, like, you know, with the dirt falling off my ceiling. It would be like, like, as they're running around.
Just get a cat.
You always need. That's the life lesson.
Yep.
Doesn't matter where you are in the world.
If you learned anything,
you need a cat.
Yes. If you learned anything from this video, you need a cat. So thanks for answering some questions about the Gambia and comparing that to my experiences in Madagascar.